Hey everyone, if you're not already subscribed, hit that button right now because I need to get this off my chest before I lose my mind. I must tell you about the time I crossed the line with the campus beauty everyone desires, the one girl no guy on campus could stop staring at. Before all this happened, I was just an ordinary junior, blending into the background of lecture halls and late-night study sessions. To me, days were routine early classes, part-time library shifts, and avoiding the spotlight. Then she appeared in my sociology lecture, Li Mei, the stunning transfer student with long black hair that caught the light like silk, and a smile that made the whole room quiet down. Her subtle floral perfume drifted over, and something in me shifted. We were assigned to the same group project. During our first meeting in the quiet corner of the campus cafe, her knee brushed mine under the table. That soft, warm contact sent electricity through me. I remember the faint scent of jasmine from her hair as she leaned in to point at the notes, and my heart started racing while I pretended to focus. God, I can still feel it now, that accidental touch lingering like a secret I wasn't supposed to keep. The cafe was half empty, soft afternoon light filtering through the windows, but all I could register was how close she was, her breath steady and calm while mine caught in my throat. I kept telling myself it was nothing, just a classmates reviewing slides, but my skin burned where her knee had rested against mine for that split second too long. She laughed at something I said, a low, melodic sound that made the air feel heavier. Her fingers hovered near my hand on the table, not quite touching, yet close enough that I could sense the warmth radiating from her. I swallowed hard, forcing my eyes back to the notebook, but the jasmine scent wrapped around me like invisible threads, pulling me in. Why did she have to smell like that? Like spring rain on flowers, sweetened, impossible to ignore. Inside my head, the voices started warring already. Chesley May, the girl every guy whispers about between classes, the one who turns heads without even trying. And me, just some average guy with a backpack full of overdue books and no reason to be noticed. This pull I felt, this sudden ache in my chest. It was dangerous. I shouldn't even be thinking about how her hair fell across her shoulder, or how her voice softened when she said my name. Her sleeve brushed my arm, and I forgot how to breathe for a moment. The heat from her body cut through the cool cafe air, making everything else fade. I wanted to pull away, to remember we were just group partners, nothing more, but my body stayed frozen, caught in that almost touch, craving what I knew I had no right to want. The meeting stretched on longer than it needed to. Every small shift in her seat sent another spark through me. Her eyes would flick up to mine, holding just a fraction longer than necessary, and I wondered if she felt it, to this gravity between us, this unspoken tension thickening the space. I kept repeating in my mind that it was only a project, only a coincidence, but the hunger growing low in my stomach told a different story. By the time we packed up our things, my pulse was still hammering. She stood first, smoothing her skirt with graceful hands, and for one heartbeat our fingers nearly met when we both reached for the same pen. She smiled again, that quiet smile meant only for me it seemed, and whispered a casual "see you in class" before walking away. I stayed behind, staring at the empty chair where she'd been, the faint jasmine lingering like a promise I wasn't brave enough to claim. That night, back in my dorm, the memory refused to fade. I lay there replaying every second, the brush of her knee, the warmth of her nearness, the way her perfume had stolen my focus. Part of me felt ashamed for letting my thoughts drift so far, for imagining what it would feel like if that distance between us disappeared completely. She wasn't untouchable, the campus dream, and I was nobody, yet the electricity from that simple contact still hummed under my skin, refusing to let me sleep. I told myself to stop, to keep things professional, to stay invisible like I always had. But even as the words formed in my mind, my body remembered the heat, the closeness, the way everything had tilted the moment she entered my world. How was I supposed to face her again and lecture without this craving pulling me under? The line between us felt thinner already, and I hadn't even crossed it yet. And then, just as I was trying to push the thoughts away, my phone lit up with a new message from her. Her message was simple, just a question about the project deadline, but the way she worded it, soft and a little uncertain, made my chest tighten. I typed back slowly, fingers hesitating over each letter, telling myself it was nothing, just classmates helping each other. Yet every reply from her pulled the conversation longer, deeper into topics that had nothing to do with class. I kept thinking she was way out of my league. Li Mei, the one everyone noticed the second she walked into her room, with that quiet confidence that made guys straighten up without realizing it. And here I was, replaying the way her shoulder had grazed mine earlier, feeling guilty for how good it felt. This pull was wrong. I was supposed to stay in the background, do my work, stay invisible like always, but the memory of her warmth lingered like an ache I couldn't shake, sweet in a way that made the guilt almost addictive. Over the next week the group chats shifted without me noticing at first. What started as quick updates turned into late-night exchanges, just the two of us still typing after everyone else had gone quiet. In lectures she began choosing the seat next to mine, close enough that our arms sometimes brushed when we reached for notes. Each time it happened, my breath caught, a small spark traveling up my skin. I told myself it was accidental. She was just being friendly. But her small smiles, the ones that seemed reserved only for me, started to feel like secrets we were sharing in plain sight. One rainy afternoon she forgot her jacket and borrowed mine without thinking twice. When she returned it the next day, I held the fabric to my face before I could stop myself. The faint jasmine scent mixed with the fresh smell of rain clung to it, wrapping around me like invisible threads. I closed my eyes for a second too long, letting that combination flood my senses, making the room feel smaller, warmer. My obsession was growing with every tiny moment, the way she laughed softly at something I said in the chat, the casual way she'd lean over to point at something on my screen, her hair falling close enough that I could almost feel its softness. Lying in bed later that night, the internal war started again, louder this time. This was dangerous. She was the campus dream, the girl whispered about in every corner, untouchable in ways that could ruin reputations if anyone even suspected. Mine, hers, everything could crack apart if this kept building. I should stop before it went any further, delete the late messages, keep my distance in class. Yet the way her eyes had lingered on me that afternoon, the softness in her voice when she said my name like it mattered. It was winning. The barrier of what was right felt like it was starting to splinter, thin cracks spreading with every remembered glance. I tossed and turned, the sheets suddenly too warm against my skin. Part of me wanted to message her right then, just to hear that melodic reply again, but I held back, ashamed of how badly I craved even that small connection. The hunger was quiet but insistent, like gravity slowly tilting everything toward her. Why did her nearness make the air feel heavier, thicker with possibility? I whispered to the empty room that I needed to stay professional, to remember my place. But even as the words formed, my mind drifted back to the borrowed jacket, to the rain-kissed jasmine, to the way her presence had begun to fill spaces I didn't know were empty. The next few days blurred into more of the same quiet escalation. She sat beside me again during a long lecture, her knee occasionally pressing lightly against mine under the desk when the room grew crowded. Neither of us moved away. The heat from that simple contact spread slowly, making it hard to focus on anything the professor said. I kept stealing glances at her profile, at the curve of her cheek, at how her fingers rested so close to mine on the shared armrest. Every micro-interaction fed the ache deeper, a shared look across the room during group discussion, her texting me a private joke right in the middle of class that made me smile despite myself. Back in the dorm, the push and pull grew sharper. I stared at the ceiling, heart beating unevenly as I listed all the reasons this couldn't continue. She was popular, surrounded by people who wanted her attention. I was just the guy who blended in. If this tension snapped, the fallout would be messy, reputations shattered like fragile glass. I should pull back now while the line was still thin enough to step away from. But then I remembered how she'd looked at me when returning the jacket. Eyes soft and a little hesitant, and the craving surged again, drowning out the warnings. Steadily winning, and the moral wall it built felt more like crumbling stone with each passing hour. The conflict twisted inside me until sleep felt impossible. Her scent on that jacket still haunted the corner of my room where I'd left it folded. Every small smile she gave only me in the crowd of the lecture hall echoed in my thoughts, making the hunger sharper, more insistent. I knew I was walking a dangerous edge, yet I couldn't bring myself to step back. The air between us in every shared moment carried an electricity that left me breathless, trembling with the weight of what I wanted but shouldn't. And just when the guilt felt heaviest, another message from her lit up my phone, her words pulling me even closer to the edge. The group session dragged on longer than anyone expected, the fluorescent lights buzzing faintly overhead as notes scattered across the desks. Everyone else filed out one by one until only the two of us remained in the empty classroom, the door clicking shut with a finality that made my pulse stutter. She lingered by the whiteboard, erasing a few stray marks, her back to me for a moment that stretched too long. Then she turned, stepping closer, the faint jasmine scent drifting ahead of her like an invitation I hadn't turned. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper when she said it. "I've been thinking about you, too." The warmth of her breath brushed my ear, soft and trembling, carrying that faint trace of strawberry from her lip balm. The air between us thickened, heavy with everything we hadn't named. My hand moved before my mind could catch up, fingers brushing her arm, then pulling her in until our lips met. It wasn't gentle. The kiss carried days of stolen glances and half-spoken regrets, her mouth yielding under mine with a sweetness that made my chest ache. Her body pressed close, the heat of her radiating through thin fabric, every small shift sending sparks along my skin. I forgot the classroom, the campus, the rules that should have kept us apart. In that instant, the last fragile wall inside me gave way, crumbling under the weight of how badly I needed this. We sank against the desk, the world narrowing to the sound of our ragged breathing and the way her fingers tightened in my shirt. Clothes shifted aside and hurried, trembling motions, skin meeting skin and the dim glow filtering through the blinds. The softness of her, the warmth enveloping me, it was more than I had let myself imagine. Time dissolved. Nothing existed but the electricity humming between us, the quiet surrender that felt both inevitable and terrifying. When it ended, we stayed there catching our breath, for heads nearly touching. The classroom felt too quiet now, the weight of what we'd done settling over me like cold rain. Excitement still hummed in my veins, sharp and alive, but fear sliced through it fast. What if someone had walked by? What if a forgotten phone had recorded the low sounds we tried to stifle? I glanced at the door, heart hammering, already imagining whispers spreading across campus like smoke. She smoothed her hair with shaky fingers, her eyes meeting mine with a mix of wonder and uncertainty. We didn't speak much, just gathered our things in silence heavy with unspoken promises. Outside, the night air felt colder against my flushed skin, every step back to the dorm carrying the echo of her jasmine scent still clinging to my collar. I replayed it all in my head, the almost accidental brush of lips turning into something unstoppable, and shame twisted with the thrill. This was the line crossed, no pretending anymore. The days that followed blurred into a dangerous rhythm of stolen moments. The library stacks became our hiding place, narrow aisles where her hand would find mine between dusty shelves, pulling me closer until our breaths mingled again. One afternoon her roommate was out, and her off-campus apartment door barely clicked shut before we were tangled on the couch, the same desperate hunger rising faster each time. Her soft sounds against my neck, the way her body arched just enough to make me lose focus, it all burned hotter, deeper, the jasmine now forever tied to that rush of pure want. Yet the risks mounted with every encounter. I missed a morning lecture because we'd lost track of time in her bed, the sheets still warm when I finally slipped away. Friends started asking why I seemed distracted, their questions landing like small warnings. She texted me during group projects, words that made my phone feel too hot in my hand, forcing me to hide smiles that could give us away. Each secret meeting fed the craving, but the constant need to glance over shoulders, to time our exits perfectly, left me breathless in a different way, pulling me under like an invisible current. How much longer could we keep this hidden before the cracks showed? Her popularity made every casual conversation with others feel like a threat, even as I told myself it was nothing. The moral weight pressed harder now, reminding me she was the one everyone watched, the campus dream that should have stayed untouchable. But the memory of her whisper, of skin warm against mine in the empty classroom, drowned out the fear again and again. I told myself we could slow down, find safer ground. Yet the next message from her always arrived at the worst moment, her words laced with that same quiet longing. The entanglement was deepening, wrapping tighter around us both, and part of me wondered how far we would fall before something broke, One evening after another hushed meeting in her apartment, the rain tapping softly against the window like impatient fingers, she turned to me in the dim light. Her voice came out small, trembling at the edges. "This isn't just fun for me anymore." The words hung between us, heavier than the jasmine scent still clinging to the air. Stomach dropped, a sudden cold plunge that left me staring at the ceiling, heart stuttering. I had told myself it was casual, a secret thrill that would fade when reality called, but now her eyes searched mine with something raw and real, and the casual entanglement was twisting into feelings I wasn't ready to name. Jealousy started creeping in like fog I couldn't clear. Seeing her laugh with other guys across the quad, their easy conversations pulling her attention even for a second, sent a sharp ache through my chest. I'd catch myself watching from afar, fists clenched in my pockets, wondering if they felt the same pull I did, if they dreamed of getting close to the campus beauty everyone desired. Guilt followed close behind, whispering about my own future plans, the quiet path I had mapped out before she walked into it and depended everything. Costing us both, the moral weight pressed harder, reminding me how forbidden it all still was, yet every time her fingers brushed mine under the table in the crowded cafe, the internal war flared brighter. I need to stop this before it ruins us, but I can't. Not when her nearness feels like gravity I was never meant to fight. The nights grew more charged after that confession. Another intense evening found us angled in her sheets, her head resting on my chest, the steady rhythm of her breathing the only sound breaking the silence. Her warmth seeped through the thin fabric between us, strawberry lip balm faint on the air from earlier stolen kisses that never quite landed where they threatened to. I lay there, fingers hovering just above her shoulder, close enough to feel the heat of her skin but not daring the full touch that might shatter the fragile almost moment. My mind spun with the danger, the way this had become my everything, forbidden and addictive in equal measure. "We keep going," I whispered into the dark, the words slipping out before I could pull them back, even knowing how impossible it was, how one wrong glance could unravel it all. I couldn't walk away. She was the one no one else could truly touch, and somehow that made the surrender sweeter, more terrifying. Looking back now, that secret affair completely changed me. From the invisible guy lingering in the back row of lectures, always blending into the crowd, to someone who knew the quiet thrill of having the campus beauty's attention like a private storm only we shared. It left me more alive than I had ever felt, every ordinary day humming with the memory of her breath warm against my neck, the electricity that sparked when our hands came too close on a shared desk. But it also left me more terrified than ever, the ache of what might break lingering like rain that never quite stops. The entanglement didn't loosen, it wrapped tighter, pulling us both under in ways we couldn't predict. What do you think? Should I continue this dangerous game or find a way out before the cracks become too wide to hide? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button if you want the full details of where our next stolen moment led, and subscribe for the next time. I'll tell you everything next time. If the hunger doesn't consume us first.